Hello and welcome back to another What the Teacher Wants Wednesday. Today we are chatting for part 3, all about classroom organization. When I planned my classroom out, I started with the physical classroom space and thinking about where I wanted students to have their own access to activities. So for example, my class library, I planned out that because that's a huge part of my classroom. My toy area for kindergarten is huge. My writing center is also something that kids are able to easily access. I planned out like all those big areas first. I would recommend start there. Start with your large areas. Where do you want kids to do their main points of learning? I have a tech table, I have my art center, I have my whole group area, and I also planned out where I want my teacher stuff, where I don't want kids to access. So thinking about structurally making your classroom a free, moving space so that kids can have easy access to things and then know, oh, that's not where I get my books. Like I keep my personal teacher read alouds in a closet. I don't let the kids access them. I have other copies, things like that. So number 1 is organize your physical space. And if you want more info and like pictures on how I do this, I have a blog post. I'll link here to read more about it with links to all the goodies I have in my classroom. And if you're like me, you're a very visual person. So I remember my first year, I snuck in over the summer and just asked if I could take a ruler and I could measure everything, or measuring tape, not a ruler. And I just wrote down measurements. I learned this from my mom, who was an 8th grade teacher. If you've been following me, you know she's retired. She helps me out a lot in my kindergarten classroom. And I've actually moved classrooms 3 or 4 times now. So I'm pretty good at being able to pack things up and move, because that's a talent all on its own. If you've been there, power to you. And planning your physical space, I think, is always easier done on paper, and then move things around when you get there in person. So number 1, plan your physical space. Number 2, within that physical space, plan for students, right? So for example, I mentioned in my writing center, and you can see all this linked again on my blog, I have the Sterilite drawers that can pull out. I have access to differentiated writing pages so kids can pull them and get them. So they have easy access to them. The kids are able to reach them right there, and they don't have to ask me for help. So even within Next student spaces, their cubbies, they have easy access to their materials. And one of the things that I'm going to start right off the bat with, if you haven't heard this already, label everything. And I mean everything. I assign student numbers at the beginning of the year. I usually have anywhere from like 40 to 45 kids because I have an AM and PM class. So my AM is green for go, and my PM is blue because it's blue and green for the ocean. But they know they're color coded, they know their number, they know where all their stuff is with their number. And I also learned that with that number, you can also take their photo and put their photo on things. Like, oh, wow, look, Johnny, you're doing a great job using the writing center. Boom, snap a quick photo, put it on his writing bin or whatever you're using for that writing area. So photos are a great way. Take a photo, you can put it on something to show that that is that student's physical space. Numbers are wonderful too. If you have an AM and PM, you can have them color coded. You could have just a number, like I have a 1 AM, 1 PM, or 1 to whatever, however many kiddos you have. And then also labeling things within there, like if they have a book bin or if they have a cubby, things like that, so they know exactly what is theirs. Now, this kind of goes back to last week when I talked about like shared supplies versus their own supplies. I do have bins that go on each table with glue sticks, crayons, markers, things like that we use occasionally. But then kids also have their own pencil box, which I highly, highly recommend. And I have like little pencil box labels. You can check those out if you want to. I love that they have all their stuff inside of them. And the best part about the pencil boxes, aside from the fact that they get to obviously organize their own materials, is the fact that the label on top has their name on it, and it has the alphabet chart, a number line, the left and right hands, shapes, colors, so many opportunities for learning that kids can reference like a mini anchor chart right at their fingertips. So yeah, they have their own individual supplies. It teaches them responsibility, but then when they're going from center to center, they have everything they need right there. They don't need to get up and go and walk and look for materials and run into something and knock things over, right? They have it right there. and they can get started. I'll do learning games with that pencil box. I'll do all kinds of things like, okay, Simon says, put your finger on the letter A. Oh, Simon says, make the sound A makes. Apple, A. Things like that are just so quick for transitions that are also a great opportunity for learning. So I'll say it again, I can't recommend it enough to try out individual pencil boxes for students, especially in kindergarten. I love sharing supplies. I think it is still important in other manners, but having their own crayons or their own scissors has been a huge game changer in my classroom, and yeah, I highly recommend it. If you haven't tried it out, maybe try it this year. That's all for today. I feel like I could go on and on about classroom organization because we just have a myriad of possibilities as teachers of things that we can organize, right? With binders and all kinds of stuff. But do you have any classroom organization tips that you'd like to share? Leave them here and I'll share them out tonight.